Okay, so here's the rest of my screencast for screencast 3. Lack of readiness. Young children come to school with varying degrees of readiness to learn math. Some children can accurately count to 20, recognize some or all of the mathematical symbols, and even count actual sets of objects. They have had preschool experiences with blocked figures in various shapes. They can look and tell whether the square block will go through the round hole. Many can already write the numbers. Other children have not had the benefit of preschool nor a wide range of experiences and are not ready. Visual perceptual deficits. The student has difficulty when writing numbers, often reversing them. Students do not grasp the meaning of the words set or group. Students cannot accurately count without physically moving manipulatives from one side of a desk to the other as they count. Students don't see 4 lines as they are forming a square. They must have colored paper forms so they can feel, or they must have the square directly on top of the rectangle to see the difference between the 2 forms. Older students cannot line up the columns of numbers. They may need graph paper in order to keep the columns and numbers straight. Poor spatial sense and poor memory. Poor spatial sense is some students have difficulty with concepts such as over and under, and more or less. And if this is the case, you will need to devote extra time to building these concepts. Poor memory. This is a big challenge for many. Students frequently do not become automatic in memorization of facts, and we see them having to count on their fingers or making slash marks on paper even as teenagers or young adults. Short-term memory scores below the 10th percentile suggest that the student may need to use a calculator or a times table chart. Purpose of assessments. Teachers find assessment devices valuable for identifying which skills students need to learn. It is helpful to watch as the students take a test in order to see how they will go about solving problems and how they will react when they are uncertain. When a student misses a problem on a test, assigning 1 or 2 similar problems may provide more information about a potential troubled area. Levels of understanding. Concrete. In math, students will never be able to manipulate fractions with any understanding until they have spent numerous hours manipulating physical pieces, representing fractions. Representational, where students can look at the symbols or pictures and understand how to move things around to get proper and improper fractions. Abstract, where the student can understand so well that he can manipulate concepts in his head. He can understand relationships such as equivalent fractions. He can deal with problems that involve whole and fractional numbers in the same problem. So here's a short lesson plan for teaching math skills. So learning objectives, students will be able to identify and write numbers 1 to 10. Introduction, ask students if they know a number to tap into their prior knowledge, write down the numbers that they share on the board. For modeling, having a number line on the board and practice counting on the board with everyone saying the numbers aloud. Then give them worksheets and see if they can remember from the counting 1 to 10 as a class. Ask students what their favorite number is and then have them count up from that number for their check for understanding. Further assessment, give them each a random amount of objects and ask them to use their fingers to count them aloud. And then for closure, a worksheet with counting. 3 facts about struggling readings. If a person cannot read efficiently, his opportunity for productive and satisfying life is remarkably reduced. 80% of students who are identified for special education will have deficits in reading. 1 in 5 students is likely to have trouble learning to read. 3 characteristics of children who may have trouble reading in the future. They have limited vocabulary that does not match their peers. They are difficult to understand when they speak. These children have trouble communicating and show problematic speech patterns such as dropping final consonants and mispronouncing common words. Balanced literacy program. Reading to children, shared book and writing experiences, phonic awareness training, organized explicit phonics decoding instruction and practice, oral language development and listening experiences, systematic vocabulary development, guided reading and attention to comprehension, individualized reading lessons with attention to construction of meaning, sustained silent reading, modeling of writing skills and techniques, opportunities for writing every day, content area, reading and writing, instruction and practice and editing, ongoing diagnosis to ensure that skills are acquired. Phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is understanding that spoken words and syllables are made up of sequences of speech sounds and that it is possible to tease out or isolate these sounds in order to assist oneself in spelling and writing. Research has shown that phonemic awareness is a powerful predictor of success in learning to read. Steps for teaching reading to students with LD. Step 1. Convince a child you can teach them to read. Step 2. Discuss and note what kind of rewards the child prefers. Step 3. Determine what the child does not and does know. Step 4. Using a wide range of achievement tests, a similar word test such as running record or the word test from the Peabody Individual Achievement Test determine the level of word recognition. How does the word walls work? The word wall serves as a visual index and as a motivator. Add words as they are taught in both spelling and decoding. Continue to add words as the year progresses. Do daily review of the word wall to remind students of all the words they have studied. Word families and word clumps. Introduce the concepts that we spell. Not every word is a new word, and that we can look within the word for clumps we already know. After you teach L, N, R, and V, you are certain O has been mastered. The next vowel to introduce is U. Spend additional time in blending practice to solidify your students' decoding skills involving most of the consonants. Next, introduce the vowels E and I. These are difficult for some students because they cannot hear the difference between them. Teaching them side by side seems to help. How to work with an emerging reader. To become a proficient reader, one must read every day. At the emergent stage, this child still needs to read with an adult. The daily practice time needs to be about 30 minutes, broken down into 10-minute sessions. Lesson plan for teaching reading skills. Lesson objective. Students will be able to identify and manipulate consonant ending blends. Grade levels first. Materials needed are the worksheets, the video or song with blends examples, blank piece of paper and pencil, the whiteboard to write examples with ending blends, tablets or computers to practice online. For modeling, I will tell the students that they will be learning about consonant ending blends, and then explain the consonants are letters in the alphabet that are not vowels. I will then write on the board some examples of consonant endings, then write the beginning of the words, and I will proceed to ask for volunteers to combine the ending and beginnings together for each set. Then after this activity, I will play a video that has some examples of ending blends. For checking for understanding, I will have the students get out a piece of paper and challenge them to use two words with the same ending blend in a sentence. For guided practice, with the worksheet of filling bubbles in, they will work in pairs to complete this worksheet. After, I will have them work on Fuzz Buzz Farm with their partner online to practice while waiting till everyone is done. For closure, I would have the students say a new word as they exit the classroom, and I will ask the students to identify the consonant endings for their new words. For homework, I will give them a worksheet with ending blends to bring back for the next day. Thank you for listening to my screencast.